it brings everyone within the township together to some degree just to celebrate the humble spud and the history behind it and everything that involves, I suppose, community life in a small country town.
This is The Producers. I'm Dani Valent. Central Victorian farmer Rob Lockhart grows wheat, oats, lamb and beef, but potatoes are his main deal. He loves them. Rob grew up around here and didn't really consider doing anything else but getting back to the region where he now farms happily and productively. We talk about potatoes, small town life and SpudFest, a Trentham festival that takes over the region every autumn.
My name's Rob Lockhart. I'm a seed potato grower. I'm based between Ballarat and Dalesford, but I also grow a lot of my spuds at Trentham, which is just east of Dalesford. I probably would describe myself as a mixed farmer. So my main enterprise is seed potatoes. I also grow wheat, oats. I probably breed up about 200 or 300 lambs as well. So that's a livestock enterprise. And I've also got a new little crop that I'm working on at the moment called pyrethrum, which is then processed and turned into organic insecticides for home gardeners or cropping. The ground that we work on just northeast of Ballarat is rolling volcanic hill country. It's a beautiful, deep, loamy red soil on the edge of really large volcanic hills. And the same applies to Trentham, the same sort of soil type up there, which is really free draining but has good water holding capacity, and it lends itself, due to its depth and texture, it really lends itself to growing really good stuff.
Rob's background is a classic Australian colonial story. His ancestors came from the UK during the gold rush, but didn't exactly strike it rich. They moved into farming, and there many of them stayed.
My family connection in this area, like many others involved with my industry, goes back to the Victorian gold rush, where a lot of us came out of the UK, seeking their fortune in gold, and then worked out that maybe it's not quite as fantastic as they thought it was. And they then went timber cutting and clearing land and grow a little bit of ground and clear it and start farming it. So my family's been hitting around this side of Ballarat since the mid-1860s. My cousin, as I sit here in my ute now, my cousin 2 k's away has the original block that our ancestors purchased in 1857, but I actually bought my own ground. So my parents split up when I was about 2, and so I didn't have any ground coming to me, so I'm one of these independent knuckleheads that decided I'm going to do it myself. It's been a long, arduous journey over 30 years, but I can at least nearly say I nearly own it. So it's taken some time.
Agriculture was always first choice for Rob, but he wasn't exactly clear what part of the industry he would devote himself to. Study was one thing, but on-the-job training was the key.
I think I was heavily leaning that way even in primary school and secondary college. I went to Ag College after year 12. And at that point, I sort of travelled around a bit, and I suppose I was going to be interested in agriculture. At the time, in the early 90s, when I finished Ag College, the wool industry had basically crashed. There was no money in going jackarooing on the big pastoral companies because they basically sacked all their staff. And my uncles offered me a job at $10 an hour driving tractors for them, and I went, yep, that will do. So, and I stayed, yeah. But they taught me my trade. So I had a formal education, I suppose you'd say, in ag, but then it's the on-ground training that actually really makes the show.
Potatoes may grow in rows, but the journey to success is rarely linear. The vagaries of the weather mean a farmer's experience and strategy are essential to a successful crop.
I think you've nearly got to be half a soil scientist to work out with a lot of cropping programs now, to work out the capability of your land and then marry them up with your plant's requirement. Every year presents its own challenges, Dan, and if someone could only write me a book and say, like a recipe. This is how you grow spuds. Everyone would do it because it would be easy. But to some degree, then that's half the challenge. You, as a farmer or as an operator, that's what keeps you on your toes. That's what keeps you interested. Is trying to work out what the season is going to do, because the season largely dictates what you get at the other end of the harvest. So you've got to bring together your best knowledge, your best aptitude, and adapt to what the season brings. It's like playing a round of foot. Every match is slightly different. Every season is slightly different. You've got to use your best experience to come out on. So this season's main challenge was a lack of rainfall. So in this area of Victoria, we've had, prior to this year, we've had 3 years which were above average rainfall. And then this season, we have swung back to a very dry year, which didn't worry us too much, because we sort of thought, well, through the summer, we irrigate them, but they normally count on a couple of good rain events. We didn't get much rain through summer. In fact, we got nearly none. So it was a real challenge this year. That was the challenge, was to get enough moisture, enough water to your crop to make sure that it succeeded.
Most consumers take potatoes for granted. They're always there in the produce section of the supermarket. But what actually is the annual growing season of a spud?
Seed potatoes are about a 90-day crop. Some varieties go out to 120 days. So we're normally planting between first week of November and Christmas, you might say. And that crop will then mature in late March or early April and delivering them to our customers. So they're a reasonably short growing season. It's only a couple of months. The varieties I grow are predominantly targeted towards the crisping industry, so that's for your Smith chips, the chips that you find on the supermarket shelves. So they're varieties which are well suited to dry cooking, drying, not so good for mashing. So the varieties I grow are predominantly, it's the major one, and there's one or two other minor ones that suit the same. I'm not a terribly big grower. I work by myself predominantly. I get a few people to help me during harvest, but I grow about 55 or 60 acres of spuds. So that converts to about 550 or 600.
Trentham is a small town an hour and a half north of Melbourne, and the whole community comes together for SpudFest. Held on the weekend of 3rd and 4th of May 2025, this year's festival is the 17th iteration of a much-loved get-together that brings together local potato growers, artisans, music, food vendors and history against a backdrop of spectacular autumn colour.
SpudFest is a terrific little community project at Trentham, which is held annually. It involves the entire town, which is not a big town. The Trentham Township is good, but there's not a large population base, but it brings the whole community together. And whether you're on farm or you know someone that works the farm, or even if you don't, it brings everyone within the township together to some degree just to celebrate the humble spud and the history behind it and everything that involves, I suppose, community life in a small country town. I'll be doing a number of things, so I suppose I'm a bit more behind the scenes, but on the day I'll have my harvester and a couple of trucks there as a bit of a static display. I may even be convinced to have a little spud stand there, even though my spuds are only suited to making chip cereals. Don't be frightened to make the connection to days or events like SpudFest and go and see where the produce comes from and go and talk to the growers, because we actually really like talking to you guys too and see what your feedback is and what you're looking for. And that completes the circle of what we grow, what you guys take home to feed your family.
Farmers rely on the regional towns that offer services, community infrastructure, and the opportunity for a cuppa and a chat. Rob talks about the delights of Trentham.
Trentham, like many smaller towns, has changed over years. It probably went through a slump where I suppose to some degree, like a lot of small towns in Australia, was sort of dying off. The population base was disappearing, the shops were shutting, and it all looked a bit grim. But I suppose its close proximity to Melbourne has kept it not only alive, but has actually caused it to thrive. Partly because it's a really beautiful spot. You've got people come out of Melbourne on a day trip. They can go to similar towns, Woodend, Kyneton, Aylesford, Trentham, all in the same little corner of the world. They go out for lunch, they go bushwalking, sightseeing, or just driving around in their hotted up old cars. It's a nice place to be. And the town itself has really revived and got life about it.
Rob's been in the game for a while. Does he still enjoy the ups and downs of farming?
Yeah, look, I do still find it rewarding, even in its balancing year, as I touched on earlier. I suppose if you're of an independent sort of mind, you get to determine so much by yourself. You've got to be self-reliant, I suppose, to a large degree, but simple things can actually sort of get you through too, like even as simple as the sun coming up, sun going down in the same day. And you do get a sense of, I still get a kick out of watching a crop actually emerge from the ground, reach maturity, and then die back down. And then you get to dig up the ground and see what you got at the other end. I do still get a kick out of it. And like any job, it does have its moments. Absolutely it does. But there are little simple things like that still make me enjoy it. Yeah.
As a long-term farmer who's built a life on his property, Rob knows a thing or two about balancing isolation and community. What advice does he have for others who are looking for balance?
It's incredibly important and not get too isolated in your work. Even though you like it and you really enjoy it, and working when your home is on your place of work, you never knock off. It's not like you've got to drive home at 5:30 and you drive home for an hour and a half. There's none of that. You basically park the ute at the back gate, you walk inside and that's it. And sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes that's a really bad thing because you never knock off. There's always another job to do. Or on Sunday, I'm not going to go into mum's and see her. I'll better do that because it'll make Monday easier. And that's probably one catch with it. And sometimes you've got to just be careful, just to realise, I need a couple of days off. I need to go down the footy. It is actually important, and I'm no better than a lot of males who sometimes don't do too much of that.
Rob is quick to acknowledge that he's not the biggest potato farmer in the game. Does he think small producers matter?
I think it's really important, actually, because so much of there is a wonderful high standard of fresh produce in this country, across the board, whether it's at the supermarkets, whether it's at the deli, or the smaller fruit and veggie store holder on the side of the road. There is some wonderful stuff, which is dead set only less than a couple of days from harvest. It is beautifully fresh produce. I think it's important because we're looking at an era where the population of the world is gradually getting a bit heavier, you might say. And I think if we get away from eating so much processed food and get back to eating whole food, just straight fruit, veggies, meat, fish, I personally think that that's perhaps where we've got conned into the myth of the quick and easy takeaway. I mean, I like takeaway food sometimes too, like anyone else does. But I think it's important for all of us to make that connection between real whole food stuffs and what we can do with them at home. And let's face it, what's the living pressure at the moment is real. It's happening.
Potatoes are part of many people's daily diet, but how much time do we spend thinking about the humble spud? Rob Lockhart suggests they're worth celebrating, whether it's at Trentham SpudFest at the start of May, or by getting to know a local grower at the farmers market. Potatoes are a versatile, nutritious staple, grown underground, but ready to head up into the limelight. This is The Producers, a Deep in the Weeds production. I'm Dani Valent. Stay tuned as we talk to some of Australia's best farmers, makers and growers. Follow us on Instagram at Producers Podcast or contact us via deepintheweeds.com.au.